sir. You're about to see something really special.
Really thought this part of my life was behind me. Frenzy disappeared with the drinking 3 years ago. Why now? This makes no sense, and I'm right on the verge of freaking out.
Back from your life.
These people can be animals.
What you burn.
Thingy's out.
Some bitter things you should never.
Good cheese.
Learn. Wallow through the days.
Remember, cosplay's not consent.
So here's to me. Congratulations, me. Yay, me.
This would all be so much easier if I was hammered. Hammered.
Won't be there anymore. You can take away the anger, but you leave behind the pain. It's your soul I will.
New ventures are always scary. Blah, blah, blah. Something positive and uplifting.
But the hurt will still remain. In your soul I'll live forever. Till I'm melted in.
Don't miss our new film, The Love Song of William H. Shaw, coming soon to a streaming service near you. Hey everyone, this is Clif from Talking Pondo. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up about spoilers on the show. We do talk about the films in a certain amount of detail, so you may want to watch the film first and then come back if you're not a fan of spoilers. Also, every now and then there's a little bit of adult language, so we wanted to give you fair warning on that. We hope you enjoy the episode, and we really appreciate you listening.
Welcome to Making Pondo and Talking Pondo. Talking Pondo is a podcast where we pick out 2 movies each week and talk about them in detail. Making Pondo is a podcast where we talk to people we've made films with and we discuss all their experiences on set.
All right, Marty, we're back.
Yes.
Back for another episode of Talking Pondo.
And what episode is it?
Folks, for those of you listening, I think this is important news.
It's a good place to start here, I think. Yeah.
I think it is. We've been going back and forth about what the episode name number is, and you've heard us scratch our heads about it. And folks, we finally figured it out. We finally decided how we're going to number it. I mean, it's only what episode? I know exactly what episode it is. It's episode 23.
Yes. This is episode 23. What happened to episode 17 and blah, blah? Well, if you've been listening, you already figured that out by our wonky name one show, one number, the other show its own number, and then you go for a while and you start to realize that's confusing.
And it's
Can we
really
have this
dumb.
one numbering system instead? So now we'll have one, and then you always remember the first 22 episodes is the early days when we didn't know what the numbers were.
When Cliff and Marty were literally on the podcast arguing about how they should number the episodes, and it only took them 4 months to figure it out. Good deal.
Well, that's
5.5. Who knows?
That's pretty good for us.
Yeah.
we've cut down the time by about a month there.
Yeah, folks, we are not fast learners. We like to kind of revel in our own failure for a bit, and then we figure it out.
It also helps now that, when you all listen to these, I don't know if you skip over the makings, if you're going through the back catalog or whatever, or if you listen to them as they come out. But now I'm more aware of what our 3 movies and then making pattern is. So
Yes. Yeah. 3 movies, then a making. 3 movies, then a making.
Not like I'm planning on trilogies or anything. It's just, it's nicer to actually have a grip of
plan and an understanding. Yeah. So
what you're doing.
if you haven't figured it out by now, folks, Marty's a planner. That's why what makes him a fantastic producer.
That's why I'm the producer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are right in the middle of another string of 6 movies we're talking about here, and so episode 23. What did we talk about this time? From 1987, Near Dark, from this year.
This year, very recent actually. It just popped up on Amazon Prime.
The Late Game.
The Late Game.
So let's go ahead and talk about the vampire movie first.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Catherine Bigelow's film from 1987 came out, I think, 2 months after The Lost Boys, and it was the little indie movie vampire, so it got kind of overshadowed. It kind of bombed at the box
Yeah,
office, but over the
it's
years.
it's a year after Aliens, so you immediately get to see, Hendricks and Lance Hendricks and Paxton again in a film, which is great. Plus the mom from Terminator 2.
Mm-hmm.
Can't beat that.
And her character name is Diamondback, right?
Diamondback, yes.
She's one of the Marines and aliens.
Yeah, she is. Yeah. Is she? Oh my God, why am I blanking on her name?
I know, right? We get on the podcast, turn the mic on. I can't remember character names.
It is her, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So you got even another aliens cast member in this film.
Is it Vasquez? Is that her name?
Yeah. That's right.
Vasquez. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Vasquez. Wow. Yeah. Okay, it's just the hair really threw me. She looks a lot different with that hairstyle. Wow.
2 De Laurentiis movies in a row. When the opening started, I'm like, this is the Maximum Overdrive again. That kind of blew my mind. Yeah.
And both bought by Studio Canal now, I guess.
Oh yeah, they had that on too.
There's no way Studio Canal had shit to do with making these movies back in the 80s. No. So, what's the movie about, Marty?
This movie is, once bit touched on it briefly. This movie is about Civil War vampires, right? To be very, very simple, oversimplified with it. So this it's a cowboy vampire movie too, which is a little different.
Well, it's set in Oklahoma and Texas, so yeah, it's.
Mm-hmm. And so what the drifter? Well, he's not really a drifter. The dude finds the other drifter and tries to hook up with her, and then it turns out she's a vampire, and then he for some reason or another, she turns him. I don't know if she did it on purpose, right? How did the events play out? Because I know they're like having their pseudo date, and the next thing I know, he's running across the field, catching on fire, trying to run back home, and they scoop him up and pull him into the RV, and he's suddenly with the family of vampires at that point.
So this is why I don't have any sympathy for this guy. He asked for that. Like, he literally, first off, okay, so the movie's about a guy, he's a small town guy, and he's a farmer's kid. His dad is actually a doctor also. We'll talk about that later.
And Thomas.
And his little sister, and he goes into town, and right from the beginning, like, he pulls over, and his 2 friends are the worst 2 dickheads you ever want to meet.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And he's a dickhead to them. And then suddenly he's like, hey, look at this hot chick. And he goes running over, and he's as creepy as you can fucking be about it. Mm-hmm. Where he's just like, oh, I've been thinking about getting a cone. Can I have a bite? It's like, fucking whatever. Weird. Anyway, so this girl basically agrees to go out with him, not out with him, but I guess wander around town or whatever. Mm-hmm. They're driving around his truck. And at one point, she's like, what time is it? And it's getting close to dawn.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, what's the problem? And she's like, nothing. I just need to get me home. Get me home, please. And he pulls the keys out of the ignition. Is like, make out with me or I'm not taking you anywhere.
Oh, that's right. See, I always forget this movie after I watch it.
And then she bites him. She's like making out with him, and it's getting all hot and steamy. And she's like, you know what? Snack, crunch. Mm-hmm. And then she runs off to get back to wherever she's going to. And he drives home. And or does she throw him out of the truck and take the truck? I can't remember which way it goes. No, she throws him out of the truck and takes the truck, right?
Yes. Doesn't she run off? Well, either way, I remember he's like, "Oh, it was worth it for the kiss" or whatever,
Right? Yeah. That's it.
He got better.
But then eventually he ends up in the field running towards his house, basically, which is I thought it was a great effect the way he's smoking. It looked really cool. It looked very neat the way they had him smoking in the sunlight and stuff. That was a really cool effect. And of course, he's basically burning up to a crisp, and then here comes this RV full of vampires that grabs him and saves him from the sunlight. And then he's off on his basically circus tour with these crazy ass vampires.
Mm-hmm. It does some different things with the genre. It's interesting in the way it switches it up. You know, we're always spoilers here. I don't, you know, you should know that by now. I would hope.
Oh yeah.
So he never actually kills anybody. He gets really close a few times, and it costs them pretty big, especially when fucking lets that guy go at the pool hall. And then the whole treating it ultimately as it was some sort of, you know, disease or blood infection that you could actually cure the vampirism in this movie is quite different than
that was
other things too. Yeah.
For me, that was a big part of my notes, or not a big part, but a whole like, well, I mean, what a MacGuffin.
Oh
where,
yeah,
like,
it's considered that a lot too.
Right?
Yeah,
where it's just like, dude, they don't. There's no setup for this
there's
cure.
no setup for it. You're right.
His dad just basically drains him and gives him his own blood, and he wakes up like, oh, I'm great, I'm fine. Hey, look, we discovered the cure to vampirism, the script doesn't talk about it. The movie doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And then he saves the girl and does the same thing to her, and it's a happy fucking ending. It's like,
well, there's no hint at all, right?
I don't think so.
Because I wonder if it's like bad exposition, like if they tried it all. Because, like I said, I forget this movie after I watch it for some reason. But you're right; it does come out of nowhere.
I watched it yesterday, and I just don't remember. I don't remember hearing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
people
it does seem to
be
feel
about
free to tell us
halfway
we're wrong,
through.
but yeah.
And then he does that. Well, this time I viewed that ending as it seemed very haunting to me because it's like, oh, that's all good for you, but she's been killing people for the last 4 years, and now I have to live with that. It was almost like, ooh, that's kind of creepy, you know. Yeah. She can't just be automatically normal now, dude. But it's just, the whole thing is kind of weird. It's an interesting twist. There's some parts that are, you know. I like the whole like how old are you? And he's like, oh, I fought for the South.
Yes,
we lost.
I fought for the South. We lost. Yeah, that's good.
And then the whole remember that fire we started in Chicago. I'm like, oh,
I have that. I literally have that as a quote. Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah,
they've been out there a long time doing this shit. What's this alternate version I thought of where they all get cured, and then we're suddenly in that Spider-Man movie where they fix the Green Goblin, and now he's normal again.
Right.
How would those characters have reacted to getting a blood transfusion?
So if the main, you know, remember when the main guy? Okay, so first off, the whole scene in the bus stop.
You are either.
The whole scene in the bus stop with the $3 is just way too long. It's way too long.
Weird, right?
But if he can't eat candy, what the hell is she doing out front of an ice cream shop with an ice cream cone? I mean,
there's weird rules, right? You can smoke and drink.
Weird rule. Yeah, you can smoke and drink, but you can't eat anything. But I guess you can sometimes.
Well, he hadn't killed yet, but see, it's all circumstantial. They never come out and say what are the rules.
Right. The premise seems to be, oh, what trouble a man's desire will get him into, which is very 80s. You know, I mean, every losing your virginity movie from the 80s is the exact same thing.
Right, you know? Right. Here we go again. Right.
Here we go again.
Similar to Once Bitten in that respect.
Mm-hmm. Boy meets girl, girl is vampire, boy becomes vampire to get girl. You know, is this Lost Boys? Like, you know,
2 months later.
You know, even the horse knows she's bad news.
Oh, yeah.
Did you notice Aliens is on the marquee in the town?
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah.
So I wonder, I know this comes out after Aliens, but I wonder which one was shot first. You know, I also kind of wonder Bigelow is dating James at this point, I think, or soon after.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I wonder if there's some help there to get this movie made, because she writes and directs it. I'm not implying anything other than, you know, I wonder if
I feel like it kind of, I don't know for certain, but it feels like it sprung out of Aliens. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, some of us are going to go and now do this
exactly
thing, you know.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, she's directing Point Break a few years after this.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking that this time it made more sense to me, where I was like, yeah, I can see the style leading to that, and even leading to the Hurt Locker many years later. There's hints.
Yeah.
And you could tell that they didn't have a lot to work with, but they did a lot with what they had. I
Oh,
thought.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a really well made little indie flick for sure. I mean,
It's
they
got a
focused on the
tone
right
to it.
things, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's got a good tone. I feel like Tangerine Dream was the music, did the soundtrack, and
Oh, yeah,
they were super popular around that time. Did Neverending Story and some other stuff. But they sort of, I feel like they kind of missed it in places where sometimes the music really lent to the scene, and other times it made it a little corny.
Yeah, it's like, whoa,
You know what I
super 80s.
Yeah, exactly. Be a good boy is a weird line from a cop. You know, be a good boy in that $3 scene. You know, here's your money. Be a good boy. It's like, what the? That's fucking weird. The other thing I noticed is that dude is miserable through most of that movie. Like the lead actor, what's his name?
The guy who plays Caleb.
Adrian Pasdar. Yeah, he is miserable through that whole movie. Caleb, that character's just, you know, he's just not having a good day from the moment he meets that girl. It feels like if this movie was done today, they would have moved past a lot of that stuff faster. Like they would have gotten more to the meat of.
Oh, of course. Yeah, we're still in slow burn territory.
Yeah, the crazy characters and developed a bit more about maybe the romance, or maybe the angle about curing the thing, or maybe more with, I don't know. I feel like Bill Paxton's character is kind of one dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's just there to basically just stomp the shit out of things and be malevolent. Like, what? Why?
Well, it's kind of like it's just a B movie, but then it has some elements that kind of rises it above the average.
Mm-hmm.
And then as it's got this cult status, we go into it looking at it as, well, I thought this was like a 3-star movie. And it's like, well, no, it's more like a B movie that did a few things really right in a few places.
Yeah.
Especially compared to a lot of the other monster Galapagos films of the era. You know, we're like, oh, this one's kind of smart in a way.
Yeah, I mean they really let Bill loose on some of the scenes in the movie. Like the bar scene, he really gets to kind of cut loose and just be, you know, go wild with his acting and stuff, and you know, be all over the place. It's a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch. The last kid, the one that dances with May in the bar, he was in Drugstore Cowboy.
Yeah, James LaGrosse. He's a Twin Peaks actor.
Yeah, he's also in Singles.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And again, I like that smoking in the sun effect. I think it's really cool the way they were able to make that happen. In fact, running with the blanket on fire is kind of dope too. I thought that was a pretty neat stunt. I kept watching that guy trying to get into the stunt man trying to get into the van and close the door with that.
Oh yeah.
Like, get in there, close the door. Yeah. Jesus, man. The movie itself, it kind of seems to waffle between like mood and cheese.
Yeah.
Like I think Lost Boys kind of toes that line a bit better, right? Where it leans in a bit more, and I feel like this movie didn't lean in enough. Like we either go full horror and get a little bit more gory, or go full like 80s kind of vibe and really lean into that shit, and or you know, whatever that you're trying to do. But it just seemed to not. Again, I agree. It had its moments and its tones and stuff, but it's just
a little choppy. Yeah,
a little choppy.
And I was watching it thinking, oh, that must be some of the limitations of what they had to deal with. Like, oh, we're suddenly in this part. Like, what happened to the thing that was in between? Oh, you're not getting to see that.
Right.
You didn't have the money to shoot it, I'm guessing.
Right. Well, and it
not too many locations either, right? So they kept that.
Yeah, it seems like they filmed most of it in a small town. Showed up in a small town, got permission to shoot, and had the money to shoot there.
That must have kept everything low.
Mm-hmm.
Weird, another Oklahoma set film. I didn't even remember that going into it.
Yeah, Oklahoma and Texas. A lot in Oklahoma is, yeah.
And they shot some of it in Arizona as well. Because our acquaintance, Chuck Williams, is the third assistant director on this movie.
Really? Interesting.
And you Misties know him as Tommy from Soul Taker, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Remember, didn't we run into him at the Gaslight Theater when we were picking up costumes for
We
Revenge
did.
of Zoe? So
We did.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I thought it was funny that it's like, oh, you're the third AD on this movie. So what is that role at that point? So are you like more paperwork, or I'll have to ask him next time I see him. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. But I had no idea they were shooting stuff like that here in Arizona back then. But it makes sense because, we must have had a tax incentive. They were shooting things out here all the time back then. It wasn't, like a big spectacle. Like, didn't they shoot Tin Cup? like in Benson or something?
They might have
to
done
really
parts
go
of it,
off the beaten path here.
Yeah. Well, it says Near Dark was $5 million budget estimated in '87, which is did 4 million, 3.5 million worldwide. So probably went to box office. Probably went to cable and so on, and made its money back pretty well, I bet.
Yeah, I don't think I might have rented it when it came out on tape originally, but I feel like I watched it a few years later on cable. And then it started to creep in. And now every time I watch it, it's like one of those movies that reminds me of a foggy, hazy past, let's say.
I hear you.
Where it's just like, oh, wow, this movie is drenched in, a particular time period. But I think that's what I like about it when I rewatch it. I'm like, well, they kind of got that late 80s, it's a good yang to the yin of Lost Boys, kind of like the two 87 vampire movies. And apparently they were going to try to remake it a few years ago. But there was another movie coming out that I guess one of the distributors thought was too similar, and that was Twilight.
Oh. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe you flying under the Twilight radar and you pick up some people that like vampire movies, but
they didn't sparkle; they caught on fire.
I have to wonder what this movie would have been like if they just really had leaned into the horror.
Yeah,
right? Like the scariest
if
part.
They had a little bit more money too.
Yeah, the scariest part to me is when
probably Lost Boys.
Paxton's on the hood. Paxton's on the hood with his face all burnt off, and he's pulling the wiring out of the.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's really good stuff, man. Like, let's give me more of that.
Jackknife.
Make it a little more scary.
Mm-hmm. And that kid from that movie, he always shows up in the most bizarre 80s movies, like River's Edge, and what's the other ones that I know he's in Class of 1999. That's one's a little more beaten path, but he's in another one of those like iconic 80s movies where he's
Joshua John Miller.
Real distinctive.
Yeah, he was in
child actor,
Joshua John Miller.
I say child actor, he's our age.
He's in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
On that one.
So let's see, he's in River's Edge, Near Dark.
River's Edge, Near Dark, and Class of 1999.
Yeah, Class of 1999. Yeah.
But yeah, he's always one of those you remember that actor. He's very distinctive. You want that weird fucking 80s kid that you can't quite trust the character, Mm-hmm. But River's Edge is just so creepy. I don't know if I can watch it again. It's a well-made movie, but my God.
This movie's a weird mix of Midwest and vampires. It's the only other thing I can think that's even close is the movie Vampires by John Carpenter. And even that seems more Southern California-ish, Texas-ish. This is very, very Oklahoma, Northern Texas, Midwest weirdo type of film. I don't know. I mean, it definitely speaks to me from where I'm living and where I'm from, but again, I just have to hammer on the fact that why aren't we talking about the cure to vampirism in this movie? Like, this kid is suddenly just cured, and it's like nothing happened. He just wakes up, hugs his sister.
Hey, how did you turn back?
How did you turn back? Nobody says anything.
It almost has that feel like they
why
were making
the other
it up
vampires when they show up and ask him, "Hey, you're warm? You smell like prey. How did that friggin' happen?"
Yeah, I hate to say things like they made it up as they went, but
Mhm.
because you know that's not how it works. You shoot things out of order and all that, but it almost has that feel like they're making up the rules as it went along. Is how it kind of like, oh, let's just drop this in. Well, that's one of those classic weird things. Like it could have that would have been the thing to rise it up to like people would consider this not only a cult classic but a good movie had they
Right.
vetted that all through.
Had they
But
figured that all
it
out?
is
Yeah.
even though it's introduced in a weird way, blood transfusion to cure you from vampirism is kind of a newer concept. And did some other movies do anything with being cured from being a vampire later on? Did somebody else take this concept and do a
I have
cleaner
no
version?
idea. I mean, maybe Blade, if I remember right, did something like that. Maybe I'll force us to watch that at some point. I'm
So
not
this
sure.
probably did make its mark on the genre then.
Uh, yeah. I mean, it's funky. I liked it. I mean, it definitely had its vibe and its tone, and it was an easy watch at 90 minutes. They got the movie down to the length it needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
To make it really watchable. It does feel like it's a little long in the early torture of that poor kid. He sure goes through it, but I like I said, I would have liked to see more vampires, a little more horror. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, I'd say it's a solid, probably 2.5 stars. I'd say probably it's not one I'm going to watch constantly. 2.5 stars, probably.
Yeah, I'm 2.5 as well. I think it's worth a look. I can see why it got swallowed up in the box office by Lost
Mhm.
Boys. That was probably still performing well 2 months
Well, I mean,
to its, debut.
87 is a monster year to release a movie.
It really is.
My
yeah.
God, that's
And yet
a tough year to release a movie.
And yet, when you look back at in retrospect, it fits right in with all the other 1987 movies, kind of forward-leaning, not so much like if this had been like 1 year prior, you get Maximum Overdrive, and there's a definite, not to compare those two movies, but I feel like I've said it before. I think there's a divide in the 86 to 87. That's where we're starting to switch to things that it's just that pre-90s type filmmaking. RoboCop, I keep bringing up as the delineation line, and I feel like this fits right in with that, and River's Edge, and Lost Boys, and Garbage Pail Kids, and Revenge of the Nerds Part 2, and all these other movies from 1987. Weird year.
So fast forwarding now to the future, to the present, actually. Sorry, not the future, but the present.
Oh, yeah. A brand new movie. When did this movie come out? Like in February?
Yeah, I believe so.
This is probably the newest release that I think we've covered.
Yeah, and again, I just, we're doing this one because I stumbled across it. And
yeah, I was wondering how you found this.
I had a buddy who I guess had seen it or come across it.
Okay.
And I like sports movies in particular, and he told me he thought I might like it because it seemed kind of Kevin Smith like.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. That's and so I went and I was like, you know what, I'll rent this, whatever. So it was.
Yeah, because at first I thought he found this movie on the filmmakers Reddit forum. I was like, it was either that or somebody told him about it. So
Yep. Yeah. Buddy might at work.
And so this movie is called The Late Game.
The Late Game.
The Late Game. And it just barely came out. It's about this guy who's going through some turmoil in his life. I guess he just broke up with his fiancée or whatnot. He's moving, moving out, or right.
Yeah, their wedding fell apart, I guess, because of you see that in the box. Yeah.
And so he runs into somebody he used to play beer league hockey with momentarily, and the guy keeps telling him, "No, we're doing the game tonight. You should really, all this can wait, or the packing, unpacking. Well, just if you change your mind, you still got my number." And so the guy does, decide to go down there. That it would be a good thing to just go and play the game and not worry about all the bullshit for the time. And so then it centers about 75% of the movie in the hockey rink at night.
Oh yeah. Oh
That
yeah.
probably really made this movie possible, I bet, having the access to that place. I mean, obviously, but then you can find your other locations around it. Watching this movie, I see why you gave me this one, because it feels like something like an alternate version of us made this, and it's nice to
That's
see that there's
exactly
a
what I
lot of
thought.
other people out there, and we knew they were out there, but it's nice to discover them where you've watched a lot of Entourage, you've watched a lot of Kevin Smith movies, and more importantly, you got that Richard Linklater thing going through, and it's like, hey, that's the same school of thought that we come through. I also felt like they watch a lot of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They just got some of those vibes where I was like, okay, you're getting me on this. And so it's like if Clerks was just about the hockey game,
Right.
that's a good way to describe this one, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's written, directed, and edited by the same guy, Jeff Tyner, and
First movie, first right?
I don't think.
Well, I don't know
he
either,
doesn't-
right?
he
I just
doesn't-
go
he
off of
doesn't-
what the IMDb says, and it's just like,
yeah, IMDb doesn't have him credited for anything else, so it's pretty surprising. It's got a rating of 4.4 on IMDb, which I think is. We'll talk about that later, but anyway, so yeah, Jeff Tyner does the film. He writes, directs, and edits. I don't know, man. I mean, like right from the start, like we talked about, it had that feeling. There's 4 fucking locations in this movie.
right?
There's his apartment, the bar, the parking lot of the stadium, and the fucking stadium, and that's
So
it.
it's
And
perfect,
the rink.
Doug Simmons' method of how you're supposed to craft from what you have. Also with the Robert Rodriguez, what do I have access to?
Work with what you have, and he had a rink, and he had people that he knew skated and played hockey, and he
And a passion about the subject.
passionate about the subject, and he knew he could write a script about it, and good on him for doing it. I don't know what the film cost, but the film looks, by the way, fantastic. It looks really good.
I noticed they had the Gemini Red camera. I think I saw them in credits, and it was like, yeah, because your lighting and your visuals are really, that's what sets it apart. At first I thought you had given me a movie that was made by Amazon Prime. Like, this movie looks really low budget for Amazon Prime original. Good on them. And then I realized, this is a total indie who, I don't know, Film Hub, or who knows what he did to get through Amazon. I looked at their website. I can't tell how many festivals they've done or whatever, but they're obviously getting it out there because people are seeing it. I have seen the movie now, so it's making the rounds.
Yep,
it's crazy.
It's
small world more than anything.
It is. It does a lot of good things. Like, I like the fact that the movie happens over one night.
Yes.
That's it. He moves into his apartment. He's frustrated. He goes to the bar to get a drink. He meets that guy who invites him to the hockey game, and he's like, all right, fine. Fuck it. I'll go to the hockey game. Shows up at the rink, runs into those 2 dumbasses. And again, those 2 dumbasses are very Jay and Silent Bob, the guys outside in the parking lot, who are obsessed with that one guy who plays hockey, and they're his biggest fans. That's classic.
Mm-hmm. There were really several moments where I just actually laughed out loud pretty hard a couple times, where they're dealing with that guy that, is hearing that they don't like him, and then
the dude who keeps trying to
you and all that, and it's just
you don't need 3 goals, huh? Oh, we couldn't. You need to get a different jersey. That's
now we're going to a separate location with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, now you've spent enough time building everything almost to the midway points where I know the characters, and then I can start, having fun with it. I think if I went back and watched it again, knowing who everybody is from the get-go now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I watched it again 2 nights ago to just get a second viewing of it, and I actually I enjoyed it a lot better the second time. It moves a bit faster the second time. I get, I'm prepped for a lot of the jokes and things, so I'm looking at other things that are still really great about. like I said, I think it's a good film. I think he did a great job
Yeah.
of it.
Mm-hmm.
Early in
And-
the film, there's a lot of color in the lighting, which I feel like sometimes if you overdo that, it can make your film feel a little indie. Like if you don't have a specific reason why you're doing all this color patterns and stuff later on in the film, because once he gets to the rink, it kind of the rink is just the color of the rink, the color of the jerseys, the color of the locker rooms, and so on and so forth. So I don't know. That would be the only part where I would say maybe should have just gone with some more general lighting or whatever. But it still worked. I mean, just being critical, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
They lose the colors later on and just, like I said, focus on the lighting. And it gives it a slick kind of pro look, in my opinion. Like right as soon as the credits kick in, it seems like as soon as the music kicks in and the credits kick in, I'm like, oh, okay. Boom, off and running.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting that it's the person's first film. Obviously, they must have done some work before, but as far as what IMDb is listing,
Right.
Writer, director, producer, editor. Oh, okay. I know what that feels like, right?
Uh-huh.
You know what that feels like.
Uh-huh.
And so it's like if you're coming out this strong with your first one, it's like I want to see what this person does with like movie 3 or 4 because their voice is really going to come out strong by then.
Yeah, I want to see him get a budget and see what he does with a real budget. I'd like to see him get, what are you going to do with, a couple of million, quarter of a million, $500,000? What are you going to do with that? You've made a small little film. What's your next idea?
I guess they're still going around and showing this. I saw they were going to show it in Denver.
Nice.
Coming up. So, because their website reminded me of our website where it's just like, yeah, here's some pictures and here's the cast. And I'm like, oh, these guys is somebody else just, making a movie and throwing it out there. And apparently more places to come than just Prime they're working on.
Good. Well,
and I get it too. This will probably end up on, Tubi and Pluto and all those other ones at some point.
By the time this is out, I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like we caught this film pretty early. Like I just on a whim rented it, and we caught the film pretty early. It's really good. And I think it's still in its kind of sort of, ballistic arc, still, getting to its apex. So by the time this podcast comes out, there'll probably be a little more chatter about it, in my opinion. I think it's been out since February, so it's only a couple months.
Yeah, I went into it not having a clue what it was. And so I think that's one of the nice ways to go into something. Just be like, oh, this is totally fresh, totally different than the other movie this week. I mean, that was independent as well, too, but they had a little bit more backing.
I think it ranks pretty high amongst all the hockey movies. I've seen way worse hockey movies out there, I mean,
that's true.
I feel like this one's up there. It does a lot of funny shit. I like how the bro kid, like the laid back kid that's talented, like he's actually pretty chill throughout the whole movie, even though he's playing for the other team. And even at certain points, he's calling out these dudes going like, dude, it's a fucking beer league. Like, calm down. What are you making all this noise about,
I remember the movie Beer League. I saw it once, and I remember thinking it was all right. A lot of people would rag on it, and they'd always rag on Artie Lang because it was a perfect, thing to rag on him on the Stern Show about. But that immediately sprung to mind was that Artie Lang's Beer League movie from like 20 years ago. Because I can't remember any other movies about beer league sports, right? Or those the two?
Yeah, well, there's a couple others, but they're pretty rare, especially when they're done. Most of these movies. Here's the other thing about this film that I like that the film doesn't accomplish anything, right? Like these characters aren't changed other than
it's just literal slice of life.
It's just literally slice of life, and it's also not exaggerated to the point of like this National Lampoon sort of American Pie ridiculousness, right? Like, yeah, there is a quick moment where the door opens and there's a full frontal nude shot of a dude, whatever.
But that's probably something that happens when you're...
Exactly. So other than that, but though it doesn't do any, it doesn't try to Animal House it up.
Yeah.
It stays away from being so ridiculous and stays in this, like you said, slice of life, one night, one beer league game. Hey, we won, kind of that awesomeness.
That's why I feel like it was more in that Linklater aspect where it's like there's no real message. It's just a day in the life of these people, and what's the most closest thing to a message? Just keep living, LIVIN. Keep doing your thing. Don't just sit around and mope. Go out and play the game and start your life back up again. Next thing you know, he's got a pot hook up because
he's got a pot hook up. Yeah,
and what is it, South Carolina, and they don't have. He can't find. He's like, this must be like going back to the Stone Age for you, or high school, or it's just these little non sequiturs like that, and it's like that's where it's starting to build itself. Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing I like about the movie is that it references pot without making it a focal point of the movie, and it also without making like a lot of the sort of silly stoner references that you'd find in those type of movies.
Mm-hmm. You can be our Vince, you can maybe our Johnny Drama, and it's like, haha, see, I could feel it. I could feel the Entourage vibe. And then when they referenced it, it made sense to me.
But even with that, there's no romance angle, which I appreciated. Like there's a cute girl in the movie, and what's she do? She's just there to make jokes and be herself. She's not there to be hit on or to be a romance angle or anything like that.
Because this movie is just about the game. It's not trying to be anything else. The romance story was the guy it broke up.
They broke up.
This is what happens that night after, or not, some nights after. Probably not the night, but you know what I mean.
The egg salad sandwich. Well, it sucks for you guys. I'm off to eat an egg salad sandwich. I started laughing
egg salad sandwich several times because we made egg salad sandwich jokes in the movies. We don't mention that often, but it made me smile.
That's a very inside Pondo joke
between Marty. They were funnier with it than we were. So
yeah, they were much funnier.
I actually used it for something. It's like, I bet that guy does have an egg salad sandwich in his car.
It seems like the only people in this movie that are sane at all are the ref and the rink attendant. The guy who's just waiting for them to go home, and the referee who doesn't want to be there anyways, because who the hell wants to referee a beer league match anyways? Right.
Did you think the referee was having a heart attack or something? Because I got the vibe when he suddenly slow-mo and he hits the ice and he sits and he falls over. I'm like, is he going to be dead? No, obviously he wasn't, which was good. So
no, to me it was just the absolute agony of watching terrible athletes play hockey. Like nobody wants to sit there for an hour and a half and watch dudes batter around the puck. That's I feel like that's part of it. It's like this whole thing of like that's why they have to play at 11 o'clock. They're so non-competitive that they have to play late at night, and have this weird deal with the rink so that they can actually play, because they're just awful. And of course, part of it is rising to the challenge of beating this team that just whoops everybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, so this guy managed to make the hockey movie before Kevin Smith made his hockey.
Yeah. Yep. The dentist gag is great. I like the dentist in the movie and that constant perpetual, like, how are your teeth? Oh, here's 25% off. Here you go. Fantastic.
His phone's still going off before his message was over, and he's frantically trying to get the phone back.
Yes, I love that. The soundtrack's good too. I like the soundtrack of the movie. I thought that they had a lot of good picks for good moments to drop film songs in, and the songs were actually
the production quality's pretty solid.
Yeah, it was very good.
Looks good. It sounds good. I wonder if it was a single camera shoot. Because it felt to me like it might have been, because some of the action of the hockey was, because it's rough to try to get that stuff,
Yeah, it sure seemed like multiple. Maybe he did a mix. Maybe it was multiples on the ice and then singles for all the dialogue or something. But
hard to say. I couldn't really,
The penalty box was a good idea too, I thought, because he was able to use that to put people in the box and then have conversations left and right and kind of do some funny stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He used it as a gag and used it as a vehicle itself, which I thought was pretty smart.
I wonder how many people have seen this movie at this point.
I don't
It's
know.
all such a mystery to me, you know. And then I wonder how much of our stuff is a mystery to people as well. And it's like I was telling you earlier, if this is how people feel after they watch our movie and they don't know anything about us, then good, because this movie it sticks with you. You think about it, you know. It has the weird clunkiness of Clerks in spots, right? Because they're working things out and they're trying to gel all these locations together, but then it all starts to coalesce about the midway point, and it becomes so strong that then it's like, this is starting to feel almost real and lived in. So it starts to rise above everything, kind of like Near Dark does in a way too, where that could have just been a regular old boring B vampire movie. At least they threw a little bit of initiative in there with some stuff.
Right.
You remember that iconic makeup effect on Bill Paxton's face, like you were saying, for instance. You know.
Yep. There's some great, there's some great lines in it. Damn, that's a good fit. The big TikTok moment where he fucking, he's gonna hit that big slapper.
Oh yeah, of course,
They call him Big Dick Nick. Big Dick Nick, Big Dick Nick. I feel like that last goal, he should have drawn it out just a little bit. Maybe just make it a little more. Give it a little more gravitas to make it a little more, these are just just tiny things. But it's such a great little indie film.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a good little indie flick. He nailed all the things that you need to do right to make a good little indie flick. And to me, the ending's great. Like, he gets in the car and then the fucking thing's over.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need to drag it out any further. Done.
Yeah. And we've seen a lot of indie movies that are of the same kind of budget, and they don't have this kind of feel to them usually. And it's usually a lot of people put a lot of work and a lot of effort, of course, but 19 times out of 20 it comes up kind of flat, and this is that one time where it clicks. It might not be for everybody. But if you like most comedy, and especially if you like sports films, you're probably going to have a soft spot for this.
Yeah, I think so. I think especially if you like hockey films or sports films, if you enjoy, I don't know, it's like Necessary Roughness meets The Replacements or something like that. It's
yeah. When this hits Tubi or something where a much larger audience can have access to it or find it, or when the physical release comes out, it's gonna, like you said, the trajectory of it's just going up. You just happen to find this comet while it was ascending in a way.
Yeah, I think so. I really think that Jeff's got some good things in store for him and the cast have got some good things in store for him later on. I mean, this is early in the year of 2024 when he's released this, and I think this is going to be a big year for him. I think he's going to be riding a big coattail in this film, honestly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what their plans are with, pushing it out. But from everything I gathered, they're a very small crew, just like we are, and they're just trying to get on top of everything, as it goes. So
they did a fantastic job. I mean, there's really not much more to say than that,
Yeah. So go and rent it. It's just available for rent, right? You can't buy it on there. Yeah, just available
for rent right now on Amazon Prime. That's
that's the only place to see it currently. It's Amazon Prime, but
and honestly, it's not a cheap rent. So it was a decision for me when I rented it. But I was like, all right, you know what? This guy says it's good. I haven't seen a decent one in a while, and it was worth it. So I tell others, I'd tell others, go out and rent this. It's actually pretty worth it.
Yeah,
I kind of wish I'd bought it.
Might have something to do with their deal. If in order to get it on Prime, you have to.
I mean,
because I know working with Prime was weird. We had issues getting Zoe up there.
I mean, I think he's probably just smartly trying to get as much money as he can out of the thing, and he should.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah. put a
I
value
think
on
the
it.
film's, like I said, I think the film's worth $10, especially if you're going to watch it with some friends, sit down and watch it. You know,
Right.
if you play beer league hockey or beer league sports, you'll probably really enjoy it. You know,
Mm-hmm. That's what a lot of the reviews I read were like, this is like right out of, I play this type of thing, and this is, such a perfect reflection in parts.
yeah, I mean, you get to meet all these weird characters and these people, who play in the league, run the league. Is Jason showing up tonight? Jason, no, God, no.
It's much like Master and Commander. You have to know everything about boats or everything about hockey. The movie will tell you what's going on through all the jargon.
Yeah, he does a good job of that. You don't have to really follow the movie much. You don't have to know much about hockey to enjoy the movie. The puck goes to the net, they score, everybody cheers. There you go. You don't really need to know much more than that to really enjoy the film.
And he paid in. He's paid in full.
He's paid in full.
Another guy had only paid in. Why did you only pay? What is like $19 or something?
Yeah, you only paid $19. What?
Why? I'm the funny guy.
I'm the funny guy.
It's like things like that. You go, that is real life, copied and pasted into the script. We've done it. We've seen other people do it, and that just has that feeling of, I'm going to put that in a movie because it's real and people are going to relate to it.
What the fuck is the Shoney's? Oh God, if he was here, he would love to. If you would ask that.
I remember Shoney's.
Shoney's, 2 ice cream bars and a carving station.
Well, this was all made in South Carolina, right? So
yeah,
and that's an East Coast thing, Shoney's, right?
I think it's Mid-Atlantic type of thing. Yeah.
Don't they make the ice cream cakes?
No, you're thinking of
Carvel.
Carvel, yeah. That's
they're East Coast too.
That's Northeast. Yeah, that's Northeast. But yeah, I'd say this is a solid 3-star movie, maybe 3.5, man.
Yeah, I was going to say 3 as well.
Yeah, but I think it's solid. I mean,
it's totally solid.
It's a couple little issues with it, but for the most part, shit, it's an enjoyable little film. Way better than some of the schlock I see pushed out in theaters nowadays.
Yeah.
I got to be honest with you there.
Mm-hmm. And that's true. And some of you might watch it and go, this is, clunky or whatever. And it's like, well, you're not. Those are people who probably don't like a lot of independent films. If you can't get past, I find it refreshing that it's like, oh, it's a bunch of, community actors, I'm guessing, or non-actors in some parts. And that gives it some of that authenticity. It gives it that kind of, that Clerks-ish feel. Yeah. But like I said earlier, I like that it's not just Clerks, right? It's people would always say that about our stuff sometimes, it's just Kevin Smith, but it's the whole blend of all that mumblecore stuff. It's all those different influences, and to see one that was not only Smith Linklater but had the Doug Ellen thing in there, the Entourage thing, was just like, see, we're not alone in this. Other people watch that and they get it. And the reason I like that show, like I've stated many times before, I like watching the ups and downs of show business. I don't care about all the debauchery stuff of the story. That's the dull part to me. I like, is Vince going to make a movie? Now he's fired. Now he's hired. I know it's soap opera and it's silly, but I like the, watching the ups and downs. It's like a sporting event in a way.
Sure. Yeah.
And apparently a lot of sports people like Entourage because there was all those sports stars doing cameos on it too, because I guess it's all the same. Now Ballers I never finished, but it was interesting. I'm going off on tangents again.
Well, to circle this back, I think it was a good movie. I think it's worth renting. You're right. It's clunky in parts, but I think it's earnest. And I like what it does. There's not another. He's made a very singular movie of his own about hockey and about the impact of hockey has on people and about and not people, but on the players more, I guess, and playing in a beer league and that type of thing. And I thought it was compelling. I thought it was good.
Yeah. You can compare it to a lot of things, but it's unique. It's not any of those things. It's something birthed from those. I thought the person who was the real glue of the movie, now they were all good, but the one that really was the standout to me was the guy he runs into at first, who's like, "You still got my number," and because he's kind of like the ringleader of it in a way. Like he's one of the supporting characters, but in a way, he's that through line, right?
Yeah.
He's the one who pushes dude to come down and actually play the game and restart his life up again. So, yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right, man. So there it was, Late Game and Near Dark. Couple of mid, 2.5, 3-star movies. Yeah. So what do you got for me next week?
Oh wow. Well, we still got a ways to go for the season's over, but we're past the middle, so I'm starting to see some of the stuff that I had bumped for months. So it's kind of nice to play clearinghouse in a way, but it's all interesting stuff. Like I said earlier, our acquaintance Chuck Williams was the third AD on Near Dark, and he also worked on this other film that you're going to watch next week, and that film is Dudes. We're circling all the way back to Mary Catherine Stewart, right?
Okay.
All the way back to Night of the Comet, so we have another one.
John Cryer there, huh?
Cryer, yeah. Flea momentarily, not to be too spoilery, but this movie's important to us in many ways. We use the Vandals song, the Urban Struggle, in our attempt at making a soundtrack, an earlier attempt at trying to make a movie when we were teenagers. So Dudes has always been around. The soundtrack to this was kind of hard to find too. I found a copy of it a few years ago. I think it was on YouTube, but it's an interesting movie. If you haven't seen it in a while, we'll see how it holds up. It's Penelope Spheris.
Yeah.
And, I have a copy that's a VHS dub, but this is the one I was talking about. You can watch it on Tubi. You can watch it on
Yeah,
Plus.
I might watch it on Tubi. Yeah.
So you can watch a high def version of it with a few commercials. So at least you have that option. Because I'm not giving you anything that looks like dog shit because it's a bad transfer or something.
All right. Well, okay. So let me write that down. So, Dudes it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to give you another relatively, it's not recent, I guess. It's within the past decade. I'm going to give you Sicario.
Oh, okay.
Villeneuve dropped Dune 2 on us, but it's brilliant. And
were we having that conversation before the pod, or was it part of the pod?
It was before the pod.
Oh, trippy.
And so I thought, you know what? That'd be a good one to give him. He hasn't seen that. And,
yeah, we were just talking about that movie and how Benicio didn't want to do a big chunk of dialogue. He could play it all on his face. Now I'm quoting the Roger Deakins podcast. So, but I've been wanting to see it. So
yeah, it's a brilliant film. I think it's Deakins and Villeneuve. It's
well, we're going back to the desert next week for both films.
Yes, we are.
Because Dudes is
both of these are in the Southwest.
Too, so
yeah, both of these are in the Southwest. So there's the theme right there.
Yeah.
All right, guys. All right. So Southwest theme, listeners, on our next episode 24.
Episode 24. Wow.
All right, Marty. Until then,
another making.
And then another making. Exactly. All right. Well, we'll talk to you then, man.
Cool. Wait.
Later.
Support the show on Buzzsprout for only $3 a month. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify or the platform of your choice. And be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube page.